So the title is From Curiosity to Confusion, because I was curious first and then I got confused later. So why this talk? I just want to tell you guys about my journey of ConfuseScript, and how it's actually. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Right. So how it's easy for you to even write your own programming language. Talk about a little bit about its mind-bending or actually confusing features. Talking about like building a language in Ruby, and basically just my experience, right? So is this confusing? Can you all see this code? Is this confusing? Or is it not? If it's not, it will be confusing later once I explain to you. Right, so my name is Keshav. I am a senior software engineer at Ceylon. I am also a Ruby enthusiast, and I've created multiple gems. I am very into open source. And I'm from Guwahati, Assam. Anyone from Guwahati or Northeast? I was hoping at least my wife will raise a hand, but okay. So why? Programming is too straightforward, right? Every languages have their own syntaxes. It's all same. It's all while loop. It's all for loop. So I decided it's too straightforward. Let's fix that, right? And so what? Let's create a confusing programming language written in Ruby, which confuses even myself. And I'm not lying. So how? Right? Using Ruby, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be attending RubyConf, right? And it's different libraries. So again, we'll talk about a little bit about why, what, and then how, right? So why write a confusing language, right? Because I was always fascinated by these esoteric languages. There are languages like Whitespace and other languages that is very confusing for you to write code in. It's challenging. It's very interesting. So I wanted to write an esoteric language of my own, but a simple one, not a very, very verbose or very complicated one. Right. And I also wanted to experiment with Ruby, see what things you can build with Ruby, right? And obviously making a programming language is challenging, it's difficult. Even if you're making a very simple programming language or a simple DSL also, it becomes very difficult or it becomes very challenging. You get to learn a lot about Ruby and a lot about like the different theories or different, techniques or approach that you can take, right? And also ConfuConf 2025, maybe. Right. So let's talk about ConfuseScript again. So the naming is because it's a confusing JavaScript. I copied the syntaxes of JavaScript, made it confusing, and how I'll come to that later. It's again built on Ruby, and it uses parsing expression grammar. Basically, I didn't want to write like the entire parser, so I'm using something for it. So can someone tell me what does it do? So this is a syntax of my language. It's one line of my code. What does it do? Can someone tell me? What does it output? Okay, so it outputs something. The language, so it's written input, but it outputs something, right? It outputs something to your console. So here's another one. What does this do? So here I use null to initialize my values or to create values, right? Why null? My language, I'll write whatever I want. One more, right? Can someone tell me what gets printed out? Yeah. So now you know that null, we initialize using null. We output to the console using console input. So can you tell me what gets outputted here? Which statement gets executed? If gets executed or else gets executed? Else? If gets executed. Right. I'll get back to why if gets executed, because just looking at this, like I said, even I'm confused. I don't know. So again, last one, right? So here we have null addition 10 plus 4, and then we have null multiplication a plus a into 2, right? So very simple. Can you tell me the output of addition and multiplication here? 6 and 3? Who said it? Thanks. I couldn't have done it, so thanks. So 6 and 3, because Here plus is minus, minus is plus, and so on and so forth, right? So when we look at this, we look at 10 plus 4, but it's actually 10 minus 4. So the addition is now 6. Since multiplication is division, that means 6 divided by 2 is 3, right? So everybody asks what is ConfuseScript. Nobody asks how is ConfuseScript. So we'll look at how is ConfuseScript, right? So now we have to look at a little bit of the technical parts, a little bit of the boarding part. It's a little bit technical. So we'll look at the anatomy of a programming language, what constitutes a programming language. We'll look at building that in Ruby. We'll look at the code, and we'll look at some more examples, right? So when we talk about parts of a programming language, these are the parts of a programming language, right? It's lexer, parser, semantic analyzer, intermediate representation, optimizer, code generator, runtime system, standard library. And if you write a console log hello world in JavaScript, this is the journey that it takes, right? It goes to lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, blah, blah, blah. And it's too complex. I don't have time to write all of that with my day job, right? I just wanted this to be a weekend project. I don't have time to write parser, lexers, like all the different parts of it, right? So that's why I use something called treetop. So using that, I can tokenize the code, meaning when I write console input hello world, that sentence gets tokenized into different tokens. Then we can pass the code, and then we execute it, right? So treetop is a Ruby library that handles that you can use to create Ruby parsers. So that's what I did. I defined syntax with PEG called parsing expression grammar. So basically, you need to write grammars before you write a language. Inside the grammar, you write what you want your language to do, right? This is the rule, and if this rule gets applied, then this is what happens, right? And then once you have the grammar, now you can generate the Ruby parsers and create ASTs. ASTs is called abstract syntax trees. It's a tree that your programming language can traverse to get the output or to execute the code. And then once we have the ASTs, we have the nodes. Now we need to write the evaluation logic for these nodes. So again, PEGs and ASTs, very complicated things, right? So if you look at this is a very simple parsing expression grammar where we have a rule for additive, we have a rule for multitive, we have a rule for primary, and a number, right? In parsing expression grammar, you can write regex. So here you can see a lot of regex things. And this parsing expression grammar creates, so these are the rules. So using additive, you can combine multitive terms. Multitive can be combined with for primaries and things like that. So once you have this, you can use treetop. You can use treetop to load this grammar. And once you load the grammar, if in the line number 7, you can see that there's an arithmetic parser that gets outputted. Now you can use this class to create your parser. So I have created a parser, and now I am just inspecting parser.parse and these 3 code, right? So we'll look at what happens when these 3 codes are executed. As you can see in my grammar, I don't have any code that matches this will not be parsed, or that matches to space start 3, right? Because space is not part of my grammar anywhere here. So the only thing that is going to get passed is line number 13. So line number 11 and 15 is going to give you nil and nil. And line number 13 is going to give you an abstract syntax tree. So looking at this abstract syntax tree, it's again a little bit complex. So I've simplified this a little bit, or beautified it. Here you can see that your additive is a node, multitive is a node, and then we have a number node. And the rest of the things are, again, syntax nodes. So the root node of a treetop is a syntax node, using which you can inherit and write your own nodes. So once we have this, now we need to write the evaluation logic for all of these nodes, right? So let's take a look at one of the node, which is additive. So you can just write a class. This is not the actual code, by the way. This is just a simple example that I've written. So using this, you can now write an evaluation logic. Once you have the evaluation logic, now you can use this evaluation logic to evaluate. And when you evaluate, this is when the code gets executed and you get whatever result you want, right? So if you look at, so what I'm doing is I'm loading the grammar, I'm creating a parser, I'm parsing it, and I'm evaluating it. So that's the 3 different steps that I needed to create. So now let's take a look at the grammar for ConfuseScript. So there are various different grammars that I've written: program, action, assignments, and all of these different grammars, right? So I don't want to take you through all the grammars. We're just going to focus on one grammar. So this is a very simple grammar that handles initialization and console input like we saw, right? So let's take a look at all of these rules one by one. So the first rule that you see is a program. So so just consider any file that you write in ConfuseScript is a program. That's the root node, right? So the root node rule states that the program can be anything that has a space or not have a space and has an action and multiple of actions, right? So that's the main program. After that, we need to define what action is. So at this point, my action, I only have 2 actions. It can either be an initialization or a console input, right? Now again, we need to define what initialization is. So initialization is basically, like I said, I have written null. I can also write Keshav and it'll work. So null, space, variable, and code, right? So if my code matches this syntax, that will be part of the initialization node. ConfuseScript nodes initialization node is basically the class that I'm using to store this syntaxes, right? So again, space is new line comment. So now I need to define what new line is. So new line is a carriage return or a new line. All of these are reject syntaxes, so it might be a little bit difficult to understand. But once you write a grammar, you need to write a little bit of rejects. So again, comment. So in normal JavaScript, you have comment as /. I decided to write a // comment. So again, variable is just not alphanumeric, just alphabeticals. And so now we can take a look at the actual AST that my code produces. So if I write on a file null a, and that's the only thing that I have in my code, and when I parse it, this is the AST that is going to present. So now you can look at this, but again, it's difficult to understand, so I have made it simplified. So the AST has program node. Under the program node, it has evaluation initialization node, which has a keyword, space, a variable node, and a terminator, right? So now what happens is, now when I need to execute this, I need to evaluate program node first, then I need to evaluate initialization node, right? So let's look at nodes now. So this is the actual program node that I have in the code. What it does, it goes through all the children, it evaluates all the children. Basically, it's traversing the node, it's evaluating all the children, and then it's returning the result of the last one. So like in Ruby, when you write from top to bottom, the last thing in the method is what is returned. So that is what is happening here as well, right? So initialization node is basically this node. And here, if you look at context, that's my memory. A programming language needs a memory. So in my language, the memory that I'm using is a hash, is a hash. So this is a context, right? So if you look at initialization code, evaluate code, what I'm doing is I'm taking the variable name. So if you go back a little bit, here the variable name is A. So what I'm doing here is, in the context hash, I'm creating a key called A, and I'm initializing it to nil, right? And then I'm returning the variable name. So this is the context under the hood, and this is the code, right? Null name, and console input is going to return you nil. If you look at the file name, it's called initialization.notjs. If you write JS, it's not going to execute. I wanted to be very explicitly clear that this is not JS. This is just JS. This is just ConfuseScript. And then variable node is this. It's just going to return the value of your context, right? So if you look at, again, if I assign the name as RubyConf India, that's what's going to get printed, because that's the value of the key of the hash now. So just a brain teaser. Can someone tell me what will it return? This is the last one, I promise. How many times is it going to print out I love Ruby? So I'll just give you like a random hint. It's between 1 to 5. Any number. And if you guess the correct number, we'll give you something. I don't know what we'll give, but we'll try to give you something. Just from 1 to 4, or 1 to 5, what do you think is is it going to return? 2? Anybody else? 3? 4? So we have 2, 3, and 4. Infinite? Can be. Okay. So let's try. Oops, I think I've already shown. Okay. Can you see the code now? Okay. Can you see my terminal? Okay. Now? Okay. So 4. So you've won. This, yeah, definitely. We'll give you 1. So yeah, that's it. If you'd like, please check out ConfuseScript. It's an open source language. Feel free to contribute as well. So yeah, that's all.
All right, some magic after some magic talk. Good stuff, Keshav. Questions for him? Don't confuse him.
I'm already confused. I don't know, man. At this point,
I have an awesome answer to why.
Yeah.
Do you know why _WHY in Ruby? The Ruby community? I know, I don't know. Yep. Yes. Like our old man there, he can give you a very detailed insight about why. One of the earliest, you want to give it a shot? One of the earliest Ruby developers who disappeared off the map. He was just off the grid. After one particular time, he's like, I'm done. But now you're to answer the question. Why?
So okay, to be honest, it was interesting. I wanted to actually the thing that yeah. So the reason why I actually was interested in making a programming language is one day I was scrolling Twitter and I saw Sonan's tweet. He mentioned that every skilled engineer has to learn a programming language, has to be able to create a programming language, and I'm like, I should try. And I couldn't, so I used Treetop to build this, whatever this is.
So yes, you have a question?
Yeah.
Please.
So is there anything else that you tried something similar, or
Sorry?
is there anything else similar to this you have tried or you found curious?
Anything else similar to this that I've written before?
Yeah.
If you're talking about like Ruby libraries, yes, I've written like some Rails gems, but not anything related to like a parser or a language.
Just a follow-up question, right? If it's not even related to Ruby, it's fine.
Yeah, so I have written 2 Ruby gems. One is to seed data and the other one is to anonymize attributes based on your active record attributes. Yeah, so if you check out my GitHub profile, you will find those.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, why did you waste two months of my time?
Swanand, clarification on the tweet.
Why should every programmer write a programming language at some point? What's the... Yes.
Aajao bhai. And our next talk is about why every programmer should write a programming language.
How much time do we have?
49 seconds. Oh, that's the counter. Take your time.
Okay. All right, so the difference between you driving a car and knowing how to build a car versus you knowing a programming language and building a programming language is quite stark. One of the fundamental tenets of being a hacker is being able to write programming languages. We don't do this because we want to put the language or write code in production, although it'll be a nice goal to write a language that someday you're going to use in production. But the very foundational notion of programming is that you write a bunch of text in an editor, it gets compiled, interpreted, parsed, and executed, and finally you see the output, is the foundation of computing. And if you look at our jobs, our professions, part one of our job is to think, and part two is to write code that executes and works. And so understanding programming language is foundational to this journey of being a programmer. And we don't have to limit ourselves to just writing Java, Ruby, JavaScript. We can go one level down and go and understand. I formed this opinion very early in my career. I was looking for ways to grow, and I wrote an email to one of the programmers that I admire. And I'll not announce it, but catch up with me afterwards and ask me who it was. But I wrote an email to this guy, very famous, and I asked him like, hey, I want to become a good programmer, what should I do? And he said, understand the full stack. And he didn't mean when you say full stack, front end and back end, the real full stack, which means from every single character that you write in your editor down to how it's executed on the machine and how it gets delivered to the users of your software. You should try and understand every single piece. And programming language is a core part of that stack. And so I figured, okay, if I'm going to be a programmer, somebody I look up to, then I must learn this. And that's where the tenet comes in. It's also a part of a very popular presentation I have called Well-Rounded Engineer, that you should understand two different paradigms of programming languages and then learn to write a toy language like this yourself.
I do believe that if you actually want to learn any new programming language, write a game, a terminal game in that language first. If you want to actually understand the nuances, this is what you need to do. Actually get down to basics. I'm pretty sure for the first time, there must have been somebody in the audience who didn't know what AST means. And now you do. And thank you guys for the talk. It was fantastic.